Hi, I'm Danny Johnson. Welcome to the Danny Johnson Show. Hey, have you found yourself in that kind of mind space and even heart space that your value is determined by your work performance? Oh, friend, I've been there before. And it really stinks. It really does. It's like a terrible thing. It really is a serious. In my early days in my career as a business person, if my business was doing well, man, I was on top of the world. Man, I was having parties. I was cooking for everybody. Everything was awesome. And then there were times where, I don't know what it is, but for some reason, especially when I was younger, I'm not saying that young people think like this because I know old people think like this too. But when I was younger, I used to think like, man, when things were really good, it's like, oh, it's going to be here forever. It's almost like I get to ride this wave for the rest of my life. Everything's always going to be awesome. And then when things were not awesome, it was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be like this forever. I was just like a total emotional basket case in all reality. Kind of sad. But here's what I've learned. My confidence and my identity, somehow my identity was tied up with my results at work. And if my results at work were good, then man, I was good, right? But if my results at work were bad, and I got to tell you something, sometimes you could be doing the same. I'll give you a prime example. My first year in business, I had placed an ad. And this ad, like, I'd get 60 calls a day through some advertising I was doing, okay? And then exactly a year later, placing the same ad in the same exact newspapers, there'd be 3 or 4 calls a day. What happened? Well, the market changed. Something changed, meaning some trend had happened that I did not know about, right? So here, even I had the same thing happen in different cities, meaning one ad would work better and I would see it's like, wow, you get 100 phone calls just flooding to my office, and then like place that same exact ad in a different city where I was opening up a new office and there would be like 2 or 3. And the cost actually might have been more to get 2 or 3 calls versus 100 calls that just, man, blew up my phone, right? So what I found in those early days is that, again, there was a lot I didn't know, but my emotions were like a roller coaster, man. I would be freaking out. And I would feel good about myself when things were going good at work, and I feel really bad about myself when they weren't doing good. What is that a sign of? That's a sign of your identity being tied up with something that is fallible, something that you cannot control. Yes, you can control what you contribute to work. However, and yes, you can control some of the results, but you do not have control over all of the results. How so? Because there's other people that you're working with. You got other competitors that you might not even be aware of. You have other circumstances outside of your control. You can't control people. You can only control what you do. You can only control what you produce. Let's say that you've got 5 coworkers, and let's say 2 of them get sick and 1 gets pregnant. And 1, their spouse gets sick and they have to be at the hospital. That's 4 of the 5 who have all called in sick. You cannot control that. Do you understand? You cannot control if somebody gets the flu. You can't control if somebody's husband got in an accident. You can't control if somebody got pregnant and is throwing up all morning. You cannot control these things. All you can control is your own personal results. But if your identity is tied up in your results at work, then you are on an emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical and financial roller coaster. And that's not the way to live. Check this out. Interesting information. Common false beliefs that Americans have about work, according to Huffington Post, says this: all value lies in performance. That you can step back from production, that you cannot step back from production and tasks for 1 second, or you're a slacker. That busyness is next to godliness. That ain't the case in my book at all. But a lot of people think like that. In fact, let's just keep going because I'm going to tell you about somebody that I've worked with before. That self-worth comes from the productivity yardstick, net worth, or that taking time for your life is an interruption of production. Now, that is a terrible mindset. I'm going to tell you why. Your life is controlled by your work. That's not a way to live. You have to think about this. What am I working for? What are you working for? Not who are you working for, but what are you working for? You work for provision. That's what you work for, provision. And you're like, wait, provision? Yeah. You work for provision. You're exchanging your time, your talent, your skill for provision for your life. You're not working for your confidence, and you're not working for ego. Because if you're working for confidence, you're working for ego. And ego can be very flimsy, right? Super flimsy. But if you're working for provision, you're going to come in, you're going to do a great job. You're going to give it your absolute best shot. And when you're giving it your best shot, the results are going to show up. But if you're under the pressure of perfection, then that pressure for perfection causes you to be rigid, inflexible. Oh, let's use that word. What I've noticed is that as people get older, they have a tendency of getting more inflexible, not flexible, but they get more rigid. They want to cling to the way of tell me how to do it right. I'm going to stick to making it happen right. And there's no flexibility, so that when something comes, a change, a shift, a new direction, or it's time to take the next new step in the right direction, inflexible people cause havoc with everybody else because they don't want that change. They don't want the improvement. They don't want to advance. They don't want to go with the flow. And so, in my opinion, those who have all their identity locked up in their personal production, that's about control. And you're wanting to control other people. You want to control other people's time. You want to control other people's output. And you're going to eventually come to the place where you realize that there's that just control is nothing but a facade. It's like grasping at the wind. Come on, try to grasp it. Ready? Can you catch the wind? Come on, catch it. Touch it. You can't. You can't touch it. You can't capture it. You don't know which direction it's coming in. You don't even know what direction it's going to go to. So if you are not taking time to enjoy the life that you're working for, if you're not taking time to enjoy the fruit of your labor, that doesn't mean going into debt. That means time and a nice drive, maybe with your spouse or your boyfriend or your girlfriend. That's like, wow, let's have some enjoyment. Let's have some fun. And by the way, fun is not expensive. Fun is laughter. Fun can happen with you and a deck of cards and another person. Fun can happen, I can't even want to say this, but I heard people belly laughing last night at midnight playing video games in our house. And the someone was my husband. I have never seen him do this, right? Fun, laughing, enjoying with two other people. There's all different types of ways to have fun that really don't cost anything. But I want to make sure that you're doing that. Because if you're enjoying time away from work, then you're going to be a much happier person at work. But if you're that person that all of your identity and all of your value is locked up in your personal production and you're stressed out all the time at work, then you are actually making a bad contribution in the environment at work. It's not a good contribution. You're actually stressing people out. They can see the pressure on your face. They are going to avoid you. They think that you hate them. They think that they're in trouble. They think that they're doing something wrong. And we see this often with management who has their whole identity locked up in, can we hit this quarter's goals? Can we make this happen? We have to hit these numbers so that I can get my bonus, right? That kind of pressure shows all over your face. And that kind of pressure causes people to avoid you. They're not going to give you their best. If we're not taking time to celebrate and have a good time and enjoy even working together, then if we're not laughing at work, if we're not having fun with what we're doing, then we're not somebody that people actually want to work with. Check this out. Huffington Post also writes that a job is a narrow slice of human existence. Our work life is literally, I agree with that. And we tend to put too much importance on it leading to stress, burnout, feeling overwhelmed, health problems, and depression. Friend, listen, work is not worth it. So if your identity, and here's the signs of it, that you are taking pressure home from work, yeah, you're taking on pressure that is not meant for you. If you're giving it your best, this is something I taught my kids, your best is good enough. I am not after perfection. I'm after your best. And if you give your best, whatever your best is, so if that comes to grades, if you're absolute best and you know in your heart of hearts you gave it your absolute best working hard in this particular class and that resulted in a C, then I celebrate, I high five, and I'm all over that C. That C is equal to an A+ to me. But if you did not give it your best, then that's a different conversation. That's a character issue. And so giving it our best shot, if you know you're giving it your best and you are aware of your attitude at work and you're aware of like, wow, stress is definitely going to change the environment. No, you want to be the one that is the de-stressor over there. So start enjoying yourself. Disconnect your identity from your work performance. I used to have my identity connected there. It resulted in a heart attack at 24 and a nervous breakdown at 25. It did. All that stress and that pressure almost took my life. So I made the choice, forget about it. I don't care what happens there. I'm going to work diligently. I'm going to work with excellence. I'm going to leave work at work. I'm going to come home and I'm going to enjoy my kids. I'm going to enjoy my husband. I'm going to enjoy life. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm not going to have my whole life centered around work and about the vision of work and all of that nonsense. I disconnected my identity with my work performance and I connected my identity to the living God. And while if your identity is connected to the living God, you are already approved. You are already secure. You are already promoted. If your identity is connected to the living God, you are already accepted. You already have everything right at your fingertips that you would ever need. Your needs are completely cared for. Do you understand what I'm saying? Come on, he says, leave your burdens at my feet. My way is easy, my burden is light. If you are carrying a heavy burden, simply it is because you're not walking with him. And your identity is with the burden instead of with him. So disconnect your identity from work. That doesn't mean don't work with excellence. That doesn't mean to give it your best. No, you will give it your best. Why? Because you already are approved of. You are accepted. You are already secured. Your future is secured. You are provided for because ultimately he is your provider and he's given you the provision of this work to do, to make money, to provide for clothing for some of you, food for others of you, for entertainment, more entertainment, and lots more entertainment for others of you. For others of you, just peace time alone, just relaxing, okay? All right, so I don't know what you thought about today, but here's one thing I do know. There's various different mindsets that you might have. There's certain kind of belief system that has you wired that you grew up with, which is what I call performance-based acceptance, which means that you are driven by performing in order to get accepted. That is a prison you do not want to live in. I lived in that prison. That prison sucks. You don't want to go there. You don't want to live there. What does it look like? You are performing to gain acceptance. That's when your identity is locked up in work, for example. Your identity could be locked up in your marriage, for example. That, man, if my marriage is good, then I'm good. If my marriage is challenging, then I'm bad. Okay. If your kids are good, then you're good. But if your kids are bad, then I'm bad. Okay. That's all identity issues tied to all the wrong things. Now, those things have power to control you. If you want help coming out of that, I want to direct you and I want to give you a free gift. It's called First Steps to Wealth. It's a book. It's a powerful book that has gotten results for so many people. It's going to help you discover what is inside of your head and inside of your heart that is driving you to painful places and painful things that do not fulfill or satisfy you. FirstStepsToWealth.com. You pay the shipping to get it to your house because we paid the shipping to get it from the publisher to our warehouse. So from our warehouse to your house, you cover that exchange, and we'll send you the $15 book absolutely free. FirstStepsToWealth.com. That's so that you will be able to disconnect that identity that is driving you crazy, driving too much pressure, too much stress, and making work not worth it. You want to find more enjoyment out of your work? You want the opportunity to grow in that work environment without the pressure? Those secrets are in First Steps to Wealth. FirstStepsToWealth.com. Finally, please share today's video. Wherever it is that you're watching this right now, just share it with somebody. Somebody needs to be cold cocked upside the head and look in the mirror at, whoa, does my whole identity like completely entrapped, imprisoned with work? It's just a really important question for somebody to ask so they can stop stressing themselves out and start having a little bit more enjoyment in life, which is so really hugely important. All right, that's it for me for right now. God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon.
If this episode was an encouragement to you, go to DannyJohnson.com and share it with your friends now. You never know who else needs to hear it. This has been The Danny Johnson Show. Join us every weekday at 7 a.m. for more insights that will help you get to the life you've always